For 5 days now, these P&O ferries haven't left the port of Dover. They're stuck here, unable to sail, after the company made mass redundancies last week. P&O say the redundancies were a business decision, with cheaper agency staff being brought in instead, amid claims they're being paid as little as £1.81 an hour.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We're going to do a follow-up video today on the P&O Ferries debacle, I suppose would be the word. It's going on now that they are claiming that what they did was legal because the boats weren't registered in Britain. And for those of you who don't know, they have basically fired 800 staff on the spot off their boats, hired thugs to remove them, and are trying to buy their silence with a payoff that if they don't sign away their rights and freedoms, they'll get virtually nothing. The unions are up in arms, the government is not happy, and the general public of this country are shunning P&O. So I think P&O could be in major trouble. But they say they're doing this to save the business. I have a feeling they may not have a business to save. But we're going to have a look at this article and make a discussion. I'll go down into my usual corner and we'll look at it. So here's the article. P&O Ferries chief insists they did not break the law by mass sacking of 800 staff on the spot because their ships were registered outside of the UK. P&O Ferries chief Peter Hebblethwaite has insisted that the operator did not break British laws. In a letter to Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng, he said that the ships were registered outside the UK. The government has threatened to criminally prosecute P&O Ferries if it is found to have broken labour laws. Business Minister Paul Scully said that the government is also reviewing contracts with the owner of with its owner, DP World. P&O Ferries dramatically fired 800 seafarers via a Zoom call last week. Now, this is the thing, that P&O has contracts with the government, and they are very important to P&O because it's a big chunk of money, many millions a year. I believe it's many tens of millions a year. If the government pulled the contracts, P&O's finished. So ultimately the threat is on the table that the government can just go, actually, what you've done, we don't agree with, and we'll just pull the contract. Or if it's legally bound that they have to maintain the contract, they just maintain it but don't sign the next contract, and P&O will just be taken off the table. They won't even get the next contract. So either way, P&O are going to be fairly buggered in terms of government contracts. But it gets worse than that. But we'll go into this now. The millionaire boss of P&O Ferries has insisted that the disgraced operator did not break British labour laws by sensationally sacking 800 seafarers without notice in one fell swoop via video call because the ships were registered outside of the UK. Yes, the ships may have been registered outside the UK, but the workers aren't, and the workers' contracts aren't. If you're hiring a British worker, you have to obey by British contract law, British employment law. So straight away, the argument, the ship is foreign, is rubbish. P&O want to sail into British waters, they have to abide by British laws. Now, if they're employing people as claimed at £1.82 an hour in Britain, then they should be prosecuted for that, because that is also a contravention of the law. Anyone in British territorial waters has to be paid minimum wage. It continues here. Writing to Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng yesterday, Peter Hebblethwaite said the very clear statutory obligation in the particular circumstances that applied was for each company to notify the competent authority of the state where the vessel is registered, in this case Cyprus and the Bahamas. And that's great if you're writing to Cyprus and the Bahamas about your ships. But, as I say, the workers on those ships aren't from Cyprus and the Bahamas, they're British workers. The chief executive, who fired 800 crew on the spot to replace them with cheaper agency workers and defended an earlier round of sackings by declaring only the fittest survive, wrote that the notification had been made to relevant authorities on March the 17th and that no offence had been committed regarding the notifying the Secretary of State. So, yeah, he's notifying the Secretary of State literally 2 hours before he fires everybody, just to make sure that he's this side of the law. This is one of those keeping to the letter of the law but not keeping to the spirit of the law. But even so, I still think it's going to be illegal. and I hope he gets sued to smithereens. Mr. Hebblethwaite added that the firm was painfully aware of the distress caused to workers and their families on being sacked without warning or consultation, again, contravention of British employment law, but added that this course of action was taken as a last resort. It's probably the last action. I think P&O will quite easily find that that'll be the last action they take as a shipping company. P&O Ferries also announced that it would pay more than 36 million in compensation to sacked staff. They're making this sound like it's, oh, we're going to give you 36 million. No, you're giving them the compensation for lack of notice. That is not compensation. Lack of notice payment is not compensation. So, with 40 employees in line for payments of more than £100,000. This is based on length of service. And here's the thing, that would only come in if they were being made redundant. Again, British employment law. If you make someone redundant, you can't replace them, because if the job is redundant, that's fine. The job's redundant and off they go. If you make the job redundant, the position redundant, and then hire someone to do the job, that's illegal as well. So, I mean, they're just lining up all the charges here. But the Trades Union Congress, the TUC, has said that P&O's claims that it had not broken any laws do not mean that its ferry firm will not face legal action. The General Secretary, Francis O'Grady, who is an absolute damn communist, told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "We don't believe their legal advice is right, and in the past, in fact, P&O has followed consultation rules. So either their very expensive legal advice has changed, or their morals have just fallen through the floor." I think both, probably. It comes as the government threatened to criminally prosecute and impose unlimited fines on P&O Ferries if the operator is found to have broken labour laws. And this is why I think P&O is in deep, deep trouble. If you own shares in P&O, seriously, sell them. Because this company is finished, whatever happens. Because it'll either go through the courts and they're finished, or if not, they'll lose all the government contracts and a lot of goodwill. People won't use them. In that report at the beginning, you see it did go on to explain that lorry drivers are queuing up and using other ferry services. Well, what happens is you get used to the other ferry services and you keep using them, so nobody will go back to P&O. So it's likely to be the end of P&O because they're arseholes. Greedy arseholes. And that's all it is. It's just greed. These billionaires in Dubai want to scrape pennies from poor, hard-working people. Former workers have reacted with fury to the announcement, with one telling the Times newspaper, "This is a total betrayal. It is clear, just as they were due to respond to the government, that they wanted everyone to think they've done the right thing. I don't want to pay off. I want the job I loved and gave my life." The Nautilus Union said P&O Ferries' shameless actions now extend to trying to buy its way out of a legal predicament exposed by the unions. Obligation to report to the Secretary of State and to consult with recognised trades unions. And they are desperate to avoid going to court. Why are they so desperate to avoid going to court? Because they know if it goes to court, they're finished. Because the employment law in this country would mean, by making these people unemployed in a manner that you have done so, opens you up to fines. But there is no maximum fine under employment law, and the government could impose a fine equal to the net worth of P&O, and they either pay it or the executives go to prison for contempt of court. So let's hope that somebody has balls and goes for a huge amount. I'm thinking hundreds of millions, maybe 250 million, partially to make sure that the workers are repaid properly, and partially to punish these greedy, grasping foreign billionaires, and thirdly to send a warning to anyone else to not try this shit. Anyway, they added, P&O Ferries are claiming to be offering the largest compensation package in the British marine sector, a company in such desperate financial circumstances that it's so prepared to spend 36.6 million on a fake redundancy. Let's be clear, this statement is confirmation that P&O Ferries believes that with enough money, it has no need to follow the laws of this country or to be hindered by ethical business standards, despite the glitzy commitments of its parent company in Dubai. Instead, it intends to bully our maritime professionals into signing settlement agreements to buy their silence. O'Grady went on to say that the government must come down on P&O like a ton of bricks. If P&O is allowed to get away with a slap on the wrist, it will be a green light for employers up and down the land to treat staff like disposable labour. The company said that, subject to the settlement agreement, it would pay 2.5 weeks uncapped salary for each year employed, rather than the statutory 1 or 1.5 weeks. It is offering 13 weeks salary in lieu of notice and 13 weeks salary on top of this in absence of consultation. Pay, as Mick Lynch says, General Secretary of the RMT, that pay in lieu of notice is not compensation, and it's not. He's right. It's just a payment so that they'll keep their mouths shut, knowing that if they utter anything, they'll get nothing. This is bullying. It's illegal, and P&O needs to be up in front of the beak and to have the biggest fine, I think, in maritime history. And that will stop them from doing this. Last week, Mr. Kwarteng wrote to Mr. Hebblethwaite to say P&O Ferries had lost the trust of the public and given its business a bad name. P&O's name is mud. P&O Ferries has replaced the 800 British staff with £1.82 an hour foreign agency workers from India, the Philippines and war-hit Ukraine. £1.82 an hour is slave labour. This man, take a look at him, he's a slaver. What a wonderful man. He needs to be prosecuted for slavery, paying anyone £1.82 an hour. Yeah. Especially when they're in British waters, in a British port. Now, that's his huge house. Now, what we need to do, as the nation, is for every worker in the docks when a P&O boat comes in, is to not tie it off, not open the doors, not service it, just not even enter it. And then what do? Government sues them, the workers sue them, and the unions say you do not service those boats, you don't tie them up, anything, don't allow them in the ports. And if these boats, as they say, are not registered in Britain, then they need a license to operate in British waters. This is a thing. Any kind of service vessel like that, ferries and passenger vehicles, passenger boats, they need licenses to operate in British waters. Remove the licenses. Still, they can take their boats, that's not an issue, but they can run their boats in other parts of the world. They just can't bring them into British waters, and they can't put them into British ports, and the government will stop paying them. And that will be the end of P&O, and these billionaires will think twice before treating people like shit. Anyway, I've said enough on this. I'm coming up and rounding off. Yeah, so they're trying this. They lie. They're greedy, grasping bastards who lie. But ultimately, we can win this. We can beat them. Just don't use P&O. Just say to anyone who ever considers getting on a ferry again, just tell P&O, piss off, bugger off, whatever terminology you use. I would use a more F-centric term. But I won't use P&O, and if all the lorry drivers and the freight people, they don't use P&O, what P&O going to do? And if the ports close to them and the ports won't let them in, what are they going to do? And even if they get into the port and the unions say, no, nobody's going to go on and service that boat, what are they going to do? They're going to go under. They're going to capsize, aren't they? They'll sink without a trace. But if you're paying someone £1.82 an hour, that is disgusting. I get it if they were operating a ferry Southeast Asia. But when you're bringing workers into British waters, they need to be paid British minimum wage. And if you're going to pay British minimum wage to these people from all over the world, you can certainly afford to keep the British workers on your boat. So, I think P&O are finished. I think if we can finish them, the people of this country can just finish P&O overnight. And we should. Because it's P&O workers today. It could be your job tomorrow. Because these companies don't give a shit about you. Bottom line, it's all that they're concerned with. So send the message. force P&O out of business. Do it to every company that tries this shit and force them out of business. And then they'll start learning. Anyway, if you enjoy what you're seeing here on this channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave a like and definitely leave a comment. We like comments. Comments are great. But until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.